What if the heaviest burdens of your soul, loneliness and depression, could become the very keys to your liberation? Life is a labyrinth of emotions, a tapestry woven with threads of joy and sorrow, connection and solitude. There are days when the world feels like an embrace, and others when it turns its back, leaving you in the shadow of silence. Yet, within this silence lies a profound opportunity, the chance to uncover a strength that no external force can shatter. Welcome to Stoic Reflections, where we delve into the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, drawing from the meditations of Marcus Aurelius to guide us through life's storms. This journey is not about erasing pain, but about transforming it, about finding peace amid chaos and resilience in the face of despair. In this exploration, we'll uncover 12 Stoic lessons to rise above loneliness and depression, not by fleeing from them, but by facing them with courage and clarity. These are not fleeting remedies, they are pillars of an inner fortress, built to withstand life's unpredictability. From embracing solitude as a gift to cultivating gratitude and connecting through virtue, each lesson offers a practical, philosophical lens to reframe your experience. We invite you to join us not just as a viewer, but as a participant in this dialogue. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which lesson speaks to you? How will you weave it into your life? Suggest topics you'd like us to explore next, and let's grow together. At Stoic Reflections, your voice fuels our mission to illuminate the path to a wiser, more fulfilled existence. Let's begin. Life can sometimes feel like a maze full of twists, turns, and unexpected dead ends. There are days when everything seems to fall into place, and you feel connected to the world around you. But then there are the other days when it feels like no one understands you, when the weight of loneliness presses heavily on your chest, and the silence becomes overwhelming. These moments of isolation can make you question yourself, leaving you feeling small and unseen. But what if you could find strength in these moments rather than allowing them to crush you? Stoicism, as illuminated by Marcus Aurelius, offers a way to not only endure but to thrive amid such trials. Loneliness and depression are feelings that, at some point, touch us all. Whether it's the sting of rejection, the loss of a loved one, or the quiet ache of feeling disconnected from those around us, these emotions can seep into our lives unexpectedly. They can wrap themselves around our hearts, making us feel as though we are drifting in a sea of sadness with no land in sight. Yet, these feelings, as powerful as they may seem, do not define us. We are not powerless against them. In fact, we possess a strength that can carry us through even the darkest days, a strength rooted in the Stoic philosophy that has endured for centuries. There is a way to rise above this, to reclaim control over how we feel, and to find peace even when life feels uncertain. It begins with a shift in perspective, a change in how we view ourselves and the world around us. Instead of seeing loneliness as a burden, it can become a space for growth. Instead of letting depression consume you, you can learn to face it head-on with resilience and understanding. This journey is not about pretending everything is fine or pushing away the struggles that come with loneliness and depression. It's about acknowledging these emotions, accepting their presence, and learning how to manage them in a way that empowers you. The power to overcome these challenges lies within you, and although it may feel impossible right now, you already have the tools you need to navigate through these difficult times. Stoic philosophy, as articulated by Marcus Aurelius, offers guidance for times like these. These are not promises of quick fixes or temporary relief. They are deeper than that. They are practical, proven ways to help you build an inner fortress of strength and resilience so that, no matter what life throws at you, you will never feel truly alone or hopeless. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you felt like giving up because the pain was too much to bear? How often have you looked for comfort outside of yourself, only to be left disappointed? Maybe you've sought validation from others, hoping that someone could fill the void inside you. But time and again, you've discovered that true contentment doesn't come from the outside world, it has to come from within. This is the core of Stoic wisdom, learning to rely on yourself, to find peace in who you are, and to stop looking for external solutions to internal struggles. When you stop chasing after things outside your control, whether it's the approval of others, a sense of belonging, or even happiness itself, you begin to free yourself from the constant anxiety that accompanies these pursuits. You start to realize that the power to feel whole, no matter the circumstances, is entirely within your hands. Loneliness and depression often stem from feeling disconnected not just from others, but from ourselves. We tend to lose touch with who we are, what we need, and what truly matters. We get caught up in the noise of the world, allowing it to drown out our own inner voice. But Stoicism teaches us that it is in these very moments, when we feel most disconnected, that we can find the greatest opportunity to reconnect with ourselves. This is not about avoiding pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about understanding that pain, like all emotions, is temporary. Stoic philosophy reminds us that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. And it is in this response that our strength lies. When loneliness strikes, it's easy to feel powerless, as if you have no choice but to suffer in silence. But the truth is, you have more power than you realize. You can choose how to face your solitude. Will you let it defeat you, or will you use it as a moment to grow stronger, to learn more about yourself, and to find inner peace? Solitude, when approached with the right mindset, can become a source of strength, a time for reflection, and an opportunity for personal growth. Depression, too, while overwhelming, does not have to dictate your life. It is a heavy cloud that can linger, but Stoic teachings show us how to navigate through it without being consumed by its weight. Stoicism offers practical tools to help manage these feelings, turning what feels like an insurmountable burden into something you can face with calm and resilience. It teaches you how to master your emotions rather than being ruled by them. As you continue, you will discover how to apply these Stoic lessons to your own life, step by step. You'll learn how to find peace in solitude, how to shift your focus from what's lacking to what's present, and how to cultivate a sense of purpose even in the darkest times. You'll see how gratitude can transform your outlook, how living with virtue can deepen your relationships, and how accepting life as it is can bring you a sense of inner freedom. There's no denying that life can be challenging, but Stoicism reminds us that we are capable of handling much more than we think. Even in the face of loneliness and depression, you have the strength to not just survive but thrive. These emotions do not define you, they are simply part of the human experience, and like all experiences, they will pass. What remains is the person you become through them, a person who has faced hardship but who has emerged stronger, wiser, and more connected to the essence of life itself. You are not alone in this journey. Many have walked this path before you, and many will follow. What sets you apart is your willingness to embrace the lessons that come with hardship, to face your feelings with courage, and to seek wisdom rather than fear. In doing so, you will find that the very emotions you once thought were your greatest enemies can become your greatest teachers. So take a deep breath. Know that you have the strength to face whatever comes your way. This journey may not always be easy, but it is one that will transform you from within. You are on the path to mastering your emotions, to finding peace in the storm, and to never feeling truly alone again. Let's begin. Solitude can feel heavy at times, like a weight pressing down on your chest. The quiet, once comforting, can become a deafening silence. There's something about being alone that unnerves most people, but it doesn't have to be this way. What if solitude could be your greatest source of strength? What if instead of dreading those moments of being alone, you learned to embrace them as opportunities for growth, clarity, and resilience? This is where Stoicism comes in, offering not just answers, but a complete shift in how we understand being alone. It's not a curse, it's a gift. In a world filled with distractions, noise, and constant connectivity, solitude often feels unnatural, even wrong. We're told that happiness lies in relationships, in being surrounded by people, in never having a dull moment. But what Stoicism teaches is different. It teaches that true strength comes from within. It teaches that peace and fulfillment are not found outside of ourselves, but in learning to be content with who we are in moments of stillness and quiet. Being alone, according to Stoic philosophy, is not something to run from but something to embrace fully. It is in solitude that we meet ourselves, stripped of all the expectations and pressures of the world, and in that space we have the chance to grow into the person we are meant to be, guided by wisdom and inner strength. Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca understood that being alone is not the same as being lonely. There is a profound difference between solitude, which is a choice, and loneliness, which feels like something imposed upon us. Solitude offers freedom, the freedom to reflect, to recharge, and to realign with our true selves. In solitude, you are not answering to anyone else's needs or desires, you are answering only to yourself. And it is in these moments that the deepest work on the soul can happen. The first step in embracing solitude is shifting your mindset about it. Instead of seeing it as a void to be filled, see it as a space of possibility. Solitude is the foundation on which self-reliance and inner strength are built. It is a necessary part of life if you want to truly know yourself and learn how to stand strong, no matter what the world throws at you. Take, for example, the life of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled during a time of great political and personal turmoil. Despite his responsibilities and the chaos around him, Marcus valued solitude deeply. He would steal moments away from the court not to escape his duties, but to reflect and recharge. It was during these times of solitude that he wrote Meditations, a collection of personal thoughts and reflections that have guided countless generations. Marcus used solitude not as an escape but as a tool to strengthen his resolve and clarify his mind. It was in these quiet moments that he found the strength to face the immense challenges of ruling an empire. Like Marcus Aurelius, you too can learn to find strength in solitude. The key is to approach it with intention. Rather than fearing the quiet, approach it with curiosity and purpose. Use it as an opportunity to explore your thoughts, to reflect on your actions, and to realign your life with the values that matter most to you. Solitude also teaches us self-reliance. When you're alone, there's no one else to turn to for advice, for comfort, or for validation. This can feel intimidating, but it's also liberating. Solitude forces you to trust yourself, to rely on your own judgment, and to make decisions based on your own wisdom. Stoicism teaches that this self-reliance is one of the greatest sources of strength a person can have. When you stop looking for external validation and start trusting your own inner compass, you become unshakable. It's important to note that self-reliance doesn't mean shutting yourself off from others or refusing help. Instead, it means that at your core, you are grounded in who you are. You are not dependent on the opinions or actions of others to feel whole. Solitude gives you the space to develop this kind of inner strength. It allows you to step back from the noise of the world and focus on what truly matters to you. Another key aspect of embracing solitude is learning to be comfortable with your own thoughts. When we're constantly surrounded by others or distracted by technology, we rarely take the time to sit with our thoughts. This can be unsettling at first, but it's a practice that the Stoics valued greatly. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of looking inward and reflecting on his own thoughts and actions. This self-reflection allowed him to grow as a person and become a better leader. When you embrace solitude, you give yourself the gift of time to think deeply about your life, your values, and your goals. This kind of introspection is crucial if you want to live a life of purpose and fulfillment. It allows you to identify what's truly important to you and to let go of the things that don't serve your growth. In solitude, you can ask yourself the hard questions: what do I want from life? Am I living in alignment with my values? What changes do I need to become the person I want to be? These are the kinds of questions that can only be answered in the quiet of solitude. Solitude also gives you the space to rest and recharge. In today's fast-paced world, we often forget the importance of rest. We're constantly moving, constantly doing, constantly connected. But Stoicism teaches that rest is just as important as action. Without rest, we burn out. Without solitude, we lose ourselves in the business of life. By embracing solitude, you give yourself the time and space to rest, both physically and mentally. This rest allows you to return to the world with renewed energy and focus. Rest in solitude is not about doing nothing, it's about engaging in activities that nourish your soul. For some, this might be meditation or journaling. For others, it might be walking in nature or reading a good book. The key is to find activities that allow you to disconnect from the outside world and reconnect with yourself. These moments of rest are essential for maintaining your mental and emotional well-being. In solitude, you also learn to let go of the fear of missing out. In a world where everyone is constantly sharing their lives on social media, it's easy to feel like you're missing out if you're not constantly surrounded by people or doing exciting things. But Stoicism teaches that true contentment doesn't come from external experiences, it comes from within. When you embrace solitude, you learn that you don't need to be constantly busy or surrounded by others to feel fulfilled. You learn to find joy and contentment in the simple act of being present with yourself. This shift in perspective is incredibly powerful. When you stop chasing after external experiences and start finding fulfillment in solitude, you free yourself from the constant pressure to do more, be more, and have more, be more. You learn to be content with what you have and who you are in this moment. This is one of the greatest gifts that solitude can offer. As you begin to embrace solitude, you may also find that your relationships with others improve. When you take the time to be alone and reflect on your own needs and values, you become more grounded in who you are. This allows you to show up more fully in your relationships without the need for validation or approval from others. You become less reactive and more intentional in your interactions with others, leading to deeper, more meaningful connections. In Stoicism, there's a deep understanding that solitude is not about isolating yourself from the world. It's about building a strong foundation within yourself so that you can engage with the world in a more intentional, meaningful way. When you embrace solitude, you learn to be present with yourself, to find strength in your own company, and to cultivate a sense of inner peace that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. In the end, solitude is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. It is in solitude that you will find your greatest strength, your deepest clarity, and your most profound growth. Stoicism teaches that true fulfillment comes not from the external world but from within. By embracing solitude, you open the door to a life of greater self-reliance, inner peace, and purpose. Focusing on the present moment, as the Stoics teach us, is a powerful antidote to the burdens of loneliness and depression. It draws you away from the mental loops that hold you captive to past regrets or future anxieties, allowing you to live fully in the only space where you have any real control, the now. This practice not only gives you immediate relief from emotional pain, but also builds long-term resilience by training your mind to stay grounded. Yet, there's more to this journey. Once you've embraced the present moment and learned to root yourself in the here and now, you can take the next step in managing your emotions, not by escaping them, but by facing them head-on, understanding them, and learning how to manage them like the Stoics. The nature of our emotions can often feel overwhelming, especially when it comes to loneliness and depression. These emotions can act as walls, trapping us inside our minds, cutting us off from the world, and making us feel powerless. But what if, instead of seeing these emotions as enemies, we began to understand them as temporary visitors that we can welcome, observe and learn from? This is where Stoic wisdom shines through. The Stoics taught that emotions are natural, but they should not control us. Instead, they viewed emotions as signals, indicators of something deeper going on within us. By understanding these emotions and their roots, we can learn to manage them more effectively. This approach is not about suppressing or avoiding feelings of loneliness and depression, but about recognizing them for what they are and choosing how we respond to them. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is that we are not slaves to our emotions. We cannot always control how we feel, but we can control how we respond to those feelings. Epictetus, a prominent Stoic philosopher, often emphasized this point. He believed that while emotions might arise in response to external events, it is within our power to decide how much influence those emotions have over us. This concept is particularly helpful when dealing with emotions like loneliness and depression, which can feel one-upsmanship. Loneliness, for example, often comes with a narrative thoughts like, "I'm not good enough, no one cares about me, or I will always be alone." These thoughts fuel the emotion, making it grow stronger and harder to bear. But what if, instead of accepting these thoughts as truth, you began to question them? This is where Stoic self-reflection comes into play. By questioning the stories we tell ourselves about our emotions, we can begin to loosen their grip on us. Take loneliness, for instance. You may feel lonely because you are physically alone, but that doesn't mean you are unloved or unwanted. The feeling of loneliness may arise, but it is your thoughts about that feeling that determine how much it affects you. If you can separate the feeling of being alone from the thought that being alone means something is wrong with me, you begin to see loneliness in a new light. It becomes a temporary state, something that will pass rather than a defining feature of who you are. Depression works in a similar way. It often comes with its own set of narratives: life will never get better, I'm stuck, or there's no point in trying. These thoughts can be incredibly powerful, pulling you into a cycle of hopelessness. But Stoicism teaches that we are not defined by our emotions. We may feel depressed, but that does not mean we are powerless. In fact, by recognizing that these thoughts are just that thoughts, we can begin to take back control. This is where the practice of negative visualization, a key Stoic tool, comes in handy. Negative visualization involves briefly considering the worst possible outcome, not to dwell on it, but to prepare yourself for it mentally. When it comes to loneliness or depression, this exercise can be incredibly freeing. By confronting the worst-case scenario head-on, you reduce its power over you. For example, if you are struggling with the fear of being alone forever, negative visualization allows you to face that fear and realize that, even in the worst-case scenario, you would still have the strength to endure it. This practice doesn't make the emotion disappear, but it helps to put it into perspective, reducing its intensity and allowing you to focus on the present. The Stoics also understood the importance of self-reliance in managing emotions. When you cultivate self-reliance, you become less dependent on external validation or circumstances to feel whole. This is particularly important when dealing with loneliness. So much of the pain that comes with loneliness is tied to the idea that we need others to feel complete. But Stoicism teaches that true fulfillment comes from within. When you learn to rely on yourself, you realize that your happiness and peace of mind are not dependent on other people. This doesn't mean that relationships or connections with others aren't important, but it does mean that you are not defined by them. You can be alone without feeling lonely, and you can find joy and fulfillment within yourself, even when external circumstances are difficult. This self-reliance is cultivated through daily practice. It's about learning to trust yourself, to listen to your own inner wisdom, and to let go of the need for constant external approval. The Stoics believe that each of us has the ability to find peace within, and solitude provides the perfect environment to develop this inner strength. As you grow more comfortable with solitude, you'll begin to see that being alone doesn't have to mean feeling lonely. Instead, solitude can be a time for reflection, growth, and self-discovery. It allows you to tune out the distractions of the world and reconnect with your own thoughts, values, and desires. In this space, you can explore what truly matters to you, free from the noise of societal expectations or the opinions of others. But what happens when solitude starts to feel overwhelming? What do you do when the quiet turns into silence, and the silence becomes too loud? This is where the Stoic practice of mindfulness comes in. By focusing on the present moment, you can calm the mind and bring yourself back to a place of peace. Loneliness and depression often arise when we allow our thoughts to spiral into the past or future. But when you practice mindfulness, you train your mind to stay grounded in the here and now, reducing the power of those negative thoughts and emotions. Stoicism teaches that the present moment is the only thing we truly have. The past is gone, and the future is uncertain. By focusing on what is happening right now, you reduce the weight of regret, fear, and worry. Mindfulness is not about ignoring your emotions, but about observing them without getting caught up in them. It's about noticing your thoughts and feelings, acknowledging their presence, and then letting them pass. This practice is especially important when dealing with emotions like loneliness and depression. These feelings often come with a flood of negative thoughts, which can pull you out of the present moment and into a state of despair. But by practicing mindfulness, you can bring yourself back to the present, where you have the power to respond to your emotions in a calm and measured way. Gratitude is another Stoic practice that helps ground you in the present moment and alleviate feelings of loneliness and depression. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, you shift your perspective and begin to see the abundance in your life. This shift doesn't mean that your loneliness or depression disappears, but it does help you see that there are still things to be grateful for, even in the darkest times. The Stoics believed that gratitude was one of the keys to a fulfilled life. By practicing gratitude daily, you train your mind to focus on the positives rather than the negatives. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending everything is fine, but it does mean finding a balance. When you can appreciate the good things in your life, no matter how small, you begin to shift your focus away from the pain of loneliness or depression and toward a more balanced view of your life. Connecting with others through virtue is another way to ease the sting of loneliness and depression. The Stoics taught that the quality of your relationships matters far more than the quantity. It's not about how many friends or connections you have, but about how you engage with others. When you live according to virtue, treating others with kindness, honesty, and respect, you build deeper, more meaningful connections. These connections are not based on superficiality or convenience, but on shared values and mutual respect. By living virtuously, you attract others who share your values, creating relationships that are supportive, fulfilling, and genuine. These relationships, while they may not eliminate loneliness, can help you feel more connected to the world around you, knowing that the people in your life appreciate you for who you truly are. Finally, acceptance is a cornerstone of Stoicism and one of the most powerful tools for managing emotions like loneliness and depression. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or resigning yourself to a life of isolation or sadness. Instead, it means accepting the reality of the present moment as it is, without resistance. When you stop fighting against what is and begin to accept it, you reduce the emotional friction that leads to suffering. Acceptance allows you to face your emotions with courage and grace. It helps you understand that while loneliness and depression may be a part of your life right now, they do not define you, nor are they permanent. By accepting what is, you open yourself up to the possibility of change and growth, freeing yourself from the burden of constant resistance. Stoicism teaches that the world is ever-changing, and so are we. Emotions come and go, circumstances shift, and nothing remains the same forever. By embracing this truth and accepting the present moment for what it is, you find peace within the uncertainty of life. You begin to see that, just as emotions rise, they will also fall. Loneliness and depression, though heavy at times, are not eternal. They are just passing states, and with time, effort, and the wisdom of Stoicism, they can be transformed into opportunities for growth, strength, and resilience. In the end, Stoicism offers a path not just to survive loneliness and depression, but to thrive in their midst. By focusing on the present moment, understanding your emotions, cultivating self-reliance, practicing gratitude, connecting through virtue, and embracing acceptance, you build a life grounded in inner peace and strength. After mastering the ability to stay present and grounded in the moment, the next crucial step is understanding the nature of emotions themselves. Emotions often feel like storms, unexpected, uncontrollable, and sometimes overwhelming. They can bring on loneliness, deepen sadness, or ignite anxiety without warning. Yet, Stoic philosophy teaches that emotions, even the most difficult ones, are not our enemies. Instead, they are signals, indicators of how we perceive the world around us. The key to emotional mastery is learning to manage these feelings without being ruled by them. So, how exactly do the Stoics teach us to manage negative emotions? Emotions, as the Stoics understood, don't come from external events themselves, but from our judgments and interpretations of those events. Epictetus famously stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This quote highlights the central idea in Stoicism: emotions arise from our thoughts. When something happens, we interpret that event, and our interpretation creates the emotional response. If you can change your thoughts, you can change how you feel. This simple yet profound insight forms the foundation of emotional resilience in Stoicism. Take, for instance, feelings of loneliness. You might be physically alone, but it is your interpretation of that solitude that shapes your emotional response. If you think being alone means you are unworthy of connection, the emotion of loneliness intensifies. However, if you view solitude as an opportunity for personal reflection or growth, the feeling of loneliness begins to dissolve. The external situation, being alone, remains the same, but your internal judgment of that situation changes everything. The Stoics teach us that this is where your power lies, in the ability to shift your interpretation of events. Another important aspect of managing emotions in Stoicism is the practice of detachment. The Stoics believed in observing emotions without becoming attached to them. When a wave of sadness or anger washes over you, it is easy to get swept away. But the Stoic approach encourages a pause, an opportunity to step back and observe the emotion without judgment. This doesn't mean denying your feelings or suppressing them. Instead, it's about creating space between the emotion and your response to it. By doing this, you avoid being controlled by your emotions and allow yourself the clarity to respond thoughtfully. This practice of emotional detachment is grounded in the Stoic concept of rationality. The Stoics believed that human beings have the ability to reason, and this reason can guide our emotions. When we face challenging emotions such as fear, anxiety, or loneliness, we can use reason to question the thoughts driving those emotions. For example, if you feel fear about an upcoming event, ask yourself what specifically you are afraid of and whether that fear is based on reality or an imagined outcome. By engaging with your emotions rationally, you strip them of their power to overwhelm you. Loneliness often carries with it a deep sense of isolation, a feeling that no one understands or cares. But Stoicism teaches that this sense of isolation is, at its core, an illusion. The Stoics believed that all human beings are interconnected through our shared humanity. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the interconnectedness of people and how we are all part of a larger whole. When you recognize this, the feeling of isolation begins to fade. You are not alone in your experience. You are part of something much larger, and this realization can be incredibly comforting in moments of loneliness. One of the most effective Stoic techniques for managing negative emotions is the practice of negative visualization. This practice involves contemplating the worst-case scenario, not to dwell on it, but to prepare yourself mentally. When you face your fears head-on, they lose their power to paralyze you. By visualizing what could go wrong, you become emotionally prepared to handle the situation with grace and resilience. In the case of loneliness, for example, negative visualization can help you confront the fear of being alone forever. By acknowledging this possibility, you reduce its ability to create anxiety and begin to see that even the worst-case scenario is manageable. Stoicism also emphasizes the importance of distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. This is a core Stoic principle known as the dichotomy of control. Negative emotions often arise when we try to control things that are beyond our power, whether it's the actions of others, external events, or even certain outcomes. Loneliness, for example, can sometimes be fueled by the desire for certain relationships or connections that are not within our immediate control. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and attitudes. By shifting your focus away from what is outside your control, you free yourself from much of the emotional turmoil that comes from trying to force things to happen. Managing depression through Stoicism also relies on this principle. Depression often brings with it a feeling of helplessness, a sense that life is out of control and nothing will ever improve. But when you break down your life into what is controllable and what is not, you begin to see that even in the darkest times, you have power over your responses. You can choose how to act, even in the face of overwhelming sadness. This choice, while it may seem small, is incredibly empowering. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot always control our external circumstances, we always have the ability to control our inner world. Reframing is another key Stoic practice in managing emotions. Reframing involves changing the way you view a situation in order to change your emotional response to it. Rather than seeing challenges as setbacks, Stoicism encourages us to see them as opportunities for growth. This perspective shift is crucial when dealing with negative emotions like loneliness or depression. Instead of viewing these emotions as something to escape from, Stoicism teaches us to see them as part of the human experience, something that can help us grow stronger and more resilient. Gratitude plays a vital role in this reframing process. The Stoics were firm believers in practicing gratitude as a way to counter negative emotions. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, you begin to change your emotional state. Loneliness often comes from a sense of lack of connection, lack of understanding, lack of companionship. But by practicing gratitude, you shift your focus to the abundance in your life. This doesn't mean ignoring the fact that you feel lonely, but it helps balance that feeling by reminding you of the good things that are still present. The Stoics also teach that emotions, particularly negative ones, are transient. Just as a storm passes, so too do emotions. This understanding can bring a great sense of peace. When you feel overwhelmed by sadness, loneliness, or anger, remind yourself that this feeling is not permanent, it will pass, as all emotions do. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the temporary nature of both good and bad experiences, noting that everything in life is fleeting. This Stoic insight allows you to endure emotional turbulence with the knowledge that it is temporary. Developing emotional resilience is a central goal of Stoic practice. Emotional resilience is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about learning how to respond to your emotions in a way that aligns with your values and long-term goals. The Stoics believed that every emotion offers a lesson, and by reflecting on your emotional experiences, you can grow stronger. For instance, if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by loneliness, rather than avoiding it, sit with it. Reflect on what that emotion is trying to tell you. Perhaps it is revealing a deeper need for connection or personal growth. By listening to your emotions without being controlled by them, you transform them from something painful into something useful. Mindfulness is another Stoic tool that helps manage negative emotions. While Stoicism is often seen as a philosophy of logic and reason, it also deeply values mindfulness, being fully present in the moment. When negative emotions arise, mindfulness allows you to observe them without getting lost in them. By focusing on your breath or your surroundings, you bring yourself back to the present moment, where emotions lose their intensity. This practice creates space between you and your emotions, giving you the clarity to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. The Stoics also believed in the power of purposeful action. When you are overwhelmed by emotions like loneliness or depression, taking action, no matter how small, can help break the cycle. This action doesn't have to be grand. It could be as simple as going for a walk, writing in a journal, or reaching out to a friend. Stoics taught that by engaging in meaningful action, you remind yourself that you have control over how you live, even when emotions feel out of control. Taking action grounds you in the present moment and gives you a sense of purpose, both of which help alleviate negative emotions. Finally, Stoicism encourages acceptance of life as it is, not as we wish it to be. This acceptance is not about passivity or resignation, it's about recognizing reality without resistance. When negative emotions arise, such as loneliness or sadness, acceptance allows you to sit with them without trying to push them away. The Stoics understood that emotions, like all aspects of life, are natural and inevitable. By accepting your emotions, you reduce the added suffering that comes from trying to deny or fight them. Acceptance brings a sense of peace, allowing you to experience your emotions without being consumed by them. Stoicism offers a powerful approach to managing emotions, especially negative ones. By understanding that emotions come from our thoughts, practicing detachment, embracing gratitude, and accepting the transient nature of feelings, we gain the tools to navigate emotional storms with grace and resilience. After gaining insight into how to manage emotions through the lens of Stoicism, the next step takes us inward toward cultivating self-reliance. The idea of self-reliance may stir something deep within you, a recognition that perhaps the strength you've been searching for outside of yourself has always been within. Stoicism teaches that true inner fulfillment is not found in external things, nor is it dependent on the approval or validation of others. Instead, it arises from the quiet confidence of knowing that you are enough as you are. Self-reliance is not about rejecting help or isolating oneself. It's about building an unshakable core of resilience, independence, and personal strength that remains steady, no matter what life throws your way. The Stoic understanding of self-reliance begins with the realization that everything you need to live a fulfilled life is already within you. When we seek fulfillment from external sources, whether it's through relationships, possessions, or achievements, we are giving away our power. External things can be taken from us, altered or lost, but what remains constant, and what Stoicism emphasizes, is the strength of our inner character. This is why self-reliance is central to Stoic thought. It anchors you in something that cannot be lost or diminished, something that is entirely within your control or yourself. Building self-reliance involves first recognizing the difference between what is in your control and what is not, a Stoic teaching known as the dichotomy of control. Many of the things we rely on for happiness, like the opinions of others, material success, or even the behavior of those close to us, are beyond our control. When you place your happiness in the hands of things you cannot control, you set yourself up for disappointment and instability. True self-reliance comes from focusing only on what is within your control, your thoughts, your actions, and your attitudes. By doing so, you free yourself from the anxiety of trying to control things that are, by nature, uncontrollable. One of the first steps to cultivating self-reliance is learning to trust your own judgment. So often, we look to others for validation, whether it's approval from family, praise from colleagues, or affirmation from friends. But Stoicism teaches that you are capable of discerning what is right for you. When you trust yourself, you'll no longer feel the need to seek constant validation from those around you. This doesn't mean rejecting advice or guidance from others. It means learning to weigh that advice against your own inner compass, which Stoicism encourages you to strengthen. Self-reliance also involves becoming comfortable with solitude. In a world that values constant connection and validation, the idea of being alone can feel daunting. But solitude, when embraced with the right mindset, is not loneliness, it is a space for self-reflection and growth. The Stoics believed that time spent alone is essential for personal development. It allows you to step back from the noise of the world and tune into your own thoughts and values. This quiet space is where self-reliance is cultivated, where you learn to stand on your own without the need for external input or distraction. One of the great Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, often reflected on the importance of solitude and self-reliance in his meditations. As an emperor surrounded by advisors, soldiers, and constant pressures, Marcus frequently withdrew into himself for moments of reflection. He knew that while he could rely on others for support or guidance, his inner strength and wisdom were his greatest assets. In his quiet moments, he developed the resilience to face the external chaos of his life without being overwhelmed by it. His life is a powerful reminder that, even in positions of great responsibility and public life, self-reliance remains the key to inner peace. To cultivate self-reliance, one must also learn to accept responsibility for their own happiness. Stoicism teaches that we are responsible for our own emotional states. When we rely on others to make us happy, we place an impossible burden on them and give away our own power. By taking responsibility for our emotions, actions, and reactions, we reclaim that power. This doesn't mean denying the influence of external circumstances on our lives, but it does mean recognizing that how we respond to those circumstances is entirely within our control. Another aspect of self-reliance in Stoic philosophy is the concept of virtue. The Stoics believed that living a virtuous life, one guided by wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, was the ultimate path to fulfillment. When you rely on external things for happiness, you are constantly chasing something outside of yourself. But when you rely on virtue, you create a stable foundation for your life. Virtue is something that cannot be taken from you. It is entirely within your control. By focusing on living virtuously, you cultivate a sense of self-reliance that is rooted in your own actions and choices rather than external circumstances. Courage is a key component of self-reliance. It takes courage to trust yourself, to make decisions based on your own values, and to stand firm in those decisions, even when others disagree. It takes courage to face life's challenges without constantly seeking reassurance from others. The Stoics believe that courage is essential for personal growth. Without it, we remain dependent on others for guidance and validation. But when we develop courage, we become self-reliant, able to face life's difficulties with confidence and resilience. Wisdom, too, plays a central role in self-reliance. The Stoics believed that wisdom is the ability to make sound judgments based on a clear understanding of the world and our place in it. When you cultivate wisdom, you become less reliant on the opinions of others because you trust your ability to discern what is right. Wisdom allows you to navigate life's challenges with a sense of inner calm, knowing that your decisions are grounded in reason and reflection rather than the shifting sands of external approval. Justice as a Stoic virtue also contributes to self-reliance. Justice, in the Stoic sense, is not merely about legal fairness, it is about living in harmony with others and acting with integrity. When you live justly, you develop a sense of self-worth that is independent of external validation. You rely on your own sense of right and wrong, guided by virtue, rather than on what others may think of you. This kind of self-reliance strengthens your ability to stand firm in your values, even when faced with opposition or criticism. Temperance, the Stoic virtue of moderation, helps you cultivate self-reliance by teaching you to manage your desires and impulses. When you rely on external things, whether it's material possessions, pleasure, or praise for happiness, you become enslaved to those things. But when you practice temperance, you learn to find contentment within yourself, independent of external circumstances. Temperance helps you develop the self-discipline necessary for self-reliance, as it teaches you to control your desires rather than be controlled by them. Self-reliance, in the Stoic sense, is not about isolation or self-sufficiency in the physical world. It is about emotional and mental independence. It's about learning to stand strong in your own convictions and values, regardless of the changing opinions or behaviors of others. The more you cultivate self-reliance, the less affected you are by external praise or criticism. You begin to live according to your own internal standards, guided by virtue, rather than constantly seeking approval from those around you. Stoicism also teaches that part of self-reliance is learning to let go of the need for external validation. When we rely on others to make us feel worthy or successful, we give away our power. True self-reliance comes from knowing your own worth and not needing others to affirm it. This doesn't mean rejecting relationships or connections with others. It means not basing your self-esteem or happiness on what others think of you. When you rely on yourself for validation, you become unshakable, no longer swayed by the opinions or judgments of others. Another crucial element of self-reliance is adaptability. Life is unpredictable, and the Stoics understood this well. Self-reliance is not about rigidly sticking to a plan or expecting life to unfold exactly as you wish. It's about being flexible, adapting to changing circumstances, and trusting yourself to handle whatever comes your way. The Stoics believed that the only constant in life is change, and self-reliance involves developing the inner strength to navigate that change with resilience and grace. When you are self-reliant, you don't fear change because you know that regardless of what happens, you have the inner resources to cope. A vital practice in cultivating self-reliance is daily reflection. The Stoics often spoke about the importance of reflecting on one's actions, thoughts, and progress each day. By regularly assessing where you are and where you want to be, you strengthen your sense of self-reliance. This reflection allows you to identify areas where you may still be overly dependent on external validation or approval, and it gives you the opportunity to correct course. Reflection helps you stay aligned with your values and deepen your trust in yourself. Stoicism teaches that cultivating self-reliance also involves accepting the inevitability of setbacks and failures. No one is perfect, and even the most self-reliant individuals will face challenges and make mistakes. The key is not to avoid failure, but to learn from it. Self-reliance means having the resilience to pick yourself up after a setback and continue moving forward. It means trusting yourself to navigate difficulties, knowing that failure is not the end but simply part of the journey. Each setback becomes an opportunity to grow, to strengthen your self-reliance, and to reinforce your inner resilience. Ultimately, self-reliance is about creating an inner foundation that remains steady in the face of life's ups and downs. It's about trusting yourself, living according to your own values, and finding fulfillment within rather than seeking it outside of yourself. When you cultivate self-reliance, you become less dependent on the approval or opinions of others. You learn to find strength in solitude, confidence in your own judgment, and peace in the knowledge that you are enough. Self-reliance is not something that happens overnight. It is a lifelong practice, one that deepens with each step you take toward building your inner strength and fulfillment. Having cultivated self-reliance, you have begun to find strength within yourself. But self-reliance alone does not fill the deeper void that many experience when life feels directionless. Stoicism teaches that true fulfillment comes from something more, a sense of purpose that transcends day-to-day existence. When life feels empty, or when loneliness settles in, the absence of purpose can deepen that feeling of disconnection. Purpose is the compass that gives your life meaning, even when external circumstances are challenging or uncertain. It is the thread that weaves through every moment, lifting you beyond the sense of isolation and guiding you toward a life lived with intention and direction. Purpose is not something that is handed to you. It is not found in external achievements or other people's expectations. In Stoicism, purpose arises from within, rooted in the belief that every individual has a role to play in the larger fabric of the universe. The Stoics believe that life is not random or meaningless. Rather, it is governed by a natural order, and each person has a unique part in this cosmic design. This understanding of purpose is not dependent on external success or validation, but comes from recognizing that your actions, no matter how small, contribute to something larger. Finding purpose begins with aligning your actions with your values. In the Stoic tradition, living virtuously is central to discovering purpose. Virtue, as the Stoics defined it, means living in accordance with reason, justice, courage, and temperance. When you act in alignment with these values, you live with purpose because you are fulfilling your role as a rational and moral being. This alignment creates a sense of inner peace and direction, helping you rise above the emptiness that often accompanies feelings of loneliness or depression. Loneliness often feels like drifting without a destination, a sense that life lacks meaning or connection. Stoicism addresses this by teaching that purpose is not something that comes from outside, it's a conscious choice you make in every action. The Stoics believe that purpose can be found in how you choose to engage with the world, even in the smallest acts of kindness, responsibility, or courage. Every moment becomes an opportunity to live with purpose, no matter the external circumstances. By focusing on living according to virtue, you find a deep sense of meaning in daily life, which transcends the need for constant external affirmation. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often reflected on the idea that life's purpose is to act in service of the greater good. In his meditations, he wrote about the importance of contributing to society and recognizing that we are all part of a larger whole. For Marcus, purpose was not found in personal glory or wealth, but in fulfilling one's duties with integrity. He understood that a life of purpose is not defined by the grandness of your accomplishments, but by the intention behind your actions. Whether you are performing a simple task or making a life-changing decision, when it is done with intention and virtue, it has meaning. Living with purpose also means accepting that life's difficulties, loneliness, pain, and loss are not obstacles to your purpose, but part of the path. The Stoics believe that challenges are opportunities to strengthen your character and deepen your sense of meaning. When you face adversity with courage and resilience, you are living in alignment with your purpose. Rather than seeing hardships as things that take away from your sense of purpose, Stoicism encourages you to see them as moments that sharpen your understanding of who you are and what you stand for. Purpose, then, is not about avoiding discomfort, but embracing it as part of a meaningful life. An essential element of finding purpose through Stoicism is understanding the role of logos, the Stoic concept of the rational order that governs the universe. The Stoics believe that everything happens according to logos, and each of us has a role to play within this larger cosmic plan. This belief is empowering because it means that your life, no matter how small or insignificant it may sometimes feel, has meaning within the greater whole. When you align yourself with this natural order, you find purpose not by trying to control outcomes, but by accepting your place in the grander scheme of things. This acceptance brings peace, even when life feels chaotic or uncertain. Purpose, according to Stoicism, also requires self-discipline and commitment. It's easy to become distracted or to lose sight of what matters when life gets hard. But the Stoics taught that purpose is found in consistency. Every day, you are presented with choices, and it is in those choices that you either move closer to or farther away from your purpose. By practicing discipline, whether it's in your habits, your work, or your interactions with others, you reinforce your commitment to living with purpose. This discipline becomes a steady force that guides you through times of doubt or difficulty, helping you stay aligned with your values, even when the path is unclear. Loneliness can often make it seem like life lacks connection or relevance. However, Stoicism teaches that you are never truly disconnected because you are part of something larger. By finding purpose in your actions, you create your own sense of meaning, even in solitude. The Stoics believe that fulfillment comes not from what you receive from the world, but from what you give to it. Purpose is found in service to others, in contributing to the greater good, and in living in harmony with nature and society. When you focus on how your actions impact the world around you, loneliness begins to dissolve because you realize that your life, no matter how small it may seem, matters. Living with purpose also involves embracing impermanence. The Stoics often reflected on the fleeting nature of life, reminding us that time is precious. This awareness of mortality does not lead to despair, but to a deeper appreciation of the present moment. When you understand that your time is limited, you begin to live with greater urgency and intention. Every moment becomes an opportunity to live with purpose, to align your actions with your values, and to contribute something meaningful to the world. This perspective shifts your focus from the things that cause you pain, loneliness, disappointment, or fear, and toward the things that give your life meaning. Stoicism also teaches that purpose is not about personal success or recognition. In fact, the pursuit of external rewards often leads to a sense of emptiness. Instead, the Stoics believe that true purpose comes from fulfilling your duties, no matter how small or humble they may be. Whether it's being a responsible parent, doing your job with integrity, or simply being kind to a stranger, these actions are infused with purpose when they are done with virtue. Purpose is not about achieving something grand, it's about living each day with intention and integrity, knowing that your actions, however small, contribute to the greater good. Another crucial aspect of finding purpose in Stoicism is the idea of accepting what you cannot control. Often feelings of purposelessness arise when life doesn't go according to plan. You may feel lost because circumstances have shifted, or things haven't turned out the way you expected. But Stoicism teaches that purpose is not tied to specific outcomes. Instead, it is found in how you respond to life's challenges. You may not be able to control what happens to you, but you can control how you choose to act in response. This shift in focus from outcomes to actions gives you the power to find purpose in any situation, even when life feels uncertain or difficult. Purpose also requires a sense of gratitude. The Stoics believed that gratitude is essential for finding meaning in life. When you focus on what you are grateful for, you begin to see that life, even with its challenges, is full of opportunities for growth and fulfillment. Gratitude shifts your perspective from what is missing to what is present, helping you see that purpose is not something you need to find, it's something you can cultivate in every moment. Whether it's through appreciating the beauty of nature, the kindness of others, or the lessons learned through hardship, gratitude helps you connect with the deeper meaning of life. Living with purpose, according to Stoicism, is not about chasing happiness. The Stoics were clear that happiness is a byproduct of living with virtue and purpose, not a goal in itself. When you focus on living in alignment with your values, happiness naturally follows. This is because purpose gives your life direction and meaning, helping you rise above the transient emotions and distractions that often lead to feelings of emptiness or loneliness. By living with purpose, you create a sense of fulfillment, but is not dependent on external circumstances, but is grounded in your own actions and choices. Finally, Stoicism teaches that living with purpose requires a deep connection to the present moment. Purpose is not something that exists in the distant future. It is something that is lived every day. The Stoics often emphasize the importance of being present, of fully engaging with each moment, rather than getting lost in worries about the future or regrets about the past. When you focus on the present, you find purpose in the here and now. You realize that every moment is an opportunity to live according to your values, to contribute to the greater good, and to create meaning in your life. In this way, purpose becomes a guiding force that leads you through loneliness, disappointment, and uncertainty. It lifts you beyond the need for external validation or success, showing you that true fulfillment is found in living with intention, virtue, and integrity. Through Stoicism, you learn that purpose is not something to be found, it is something to be lived every day, in every action, no matter how small. This sense of purpose transforms your life, helping you navigate even the darkest moments with clarity, strength, and meaning. With a sense of purpose guiding your actions and shaping your life, there's another crucial element that deepens this journey: gratitude. Purpose gives you direction, but gratitude grounds you, allowing you to appreciate the present moment and everything it holds. When life feels difficult, when loneliness and despair creep in, it's easy to focus on what is missing, on the lack rather than the abundance. Stoicism, however, teaches a transformative approach: gratitude, not as a fleeting sentiment, but as a way of life, shifting your attention from scarcity to the richness that already exists. Gratitude in Stoicism isn't about superficial positivity or forcing yourself to be happy in the face of difficulty. Instead, it's a powerful practice that roots you in the present and invites you to see the world through a lens of appreciation. Life, with all its complexities, is filled with moments of beauty and opportunities for growth, even in adversity. Stoic gratitude encourages a deeper understanding of these moments, guiding you to recognize the value in what you have rather than focusing on what you lack. At its core, Stoic gratitude begins with acknowledging that life itself is a gift. Each breath, each opportunity to engage with the world, is something to be thankful for. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on the simple act of waking up each day, reminding himself that life is temporary and that each day is another chance to live with virtue and purpose. This perspective shifts your focus from what you don't have or what could be better to the abundance of life itself, with all its imperfections. When you start to see life as something to be appreciated, even in its challenges, your outlook begins to transform. The Stoics also taught that gratitude is not dependent on circumstances. It's easy to feel grateful when life is going well, when things fall into place and when there's little to worry about. But true Stoic gratitude extends beyond the good times. It's about finding appreciation even in difficulty. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized that everything that happens in life is an opportunity to grow. Whether it's a hardship or a success, each moment offers something to be grateful for. This doesn't mean you need to be happy about every challenge you face, but it does mean recognizing that even the difficulties in life contribute to your growth and understanding. Loneliness, for example, may feel like an unwelcome visitor, but Stoicism teaches that there is something to be learned even in these moments of isolation. Instead of focusing on the absence of connection, Gratitude allows you to shift your focus toward the time and space that solitude provides. Solitude can offer reflection, personal growth, and the chance to strengthen your relationship with yourself. Gratitude for these moments of quiet, rather than focusing on the loneliness, shifts your mindset from one of lack to one of abundance. When you practice gratitude, you actively change the narrative of your life. Instead of seeing what's wrong or what's missing, you begin to see what's present, and in doing so, you realize how much there is to appreciate. This doesn't mean ignoring the difficulties you face, but it does mean choosing to focus on the parts of life that are enriching and valuable. Seneca, another prominent Stoic, often reflected on the importance of gratitude for the small, everyday things: the warmth of the sun, the beauty of nature, the kindness of a friend. By focusing on these small moments, you cultivate a sense of contentment that isn't reliant on external achievements or possessions. Gratitude in Stoicism also extends to people and relationships. While Stoicism encourages self-reliance and independence, it also teaches the importance of acknowledging the contributions of others. No one lives in isolation, and even the most self-reliant individuals benefit from the kindness, support, or wisdom of others. Practicing gratitude toward those around you, whether it's a friend, family member, or even a stranger, helps you develop deeper connections and strengthens your sense of community. In moments of loneliness or isolation, this practice of gratitude can be a powerful reminder that you are not alone, even when it feels that way. Another key aspect of Stoic gratitude is understanding the impermanence of life. Everything you have, whether it's material possessions, relationships, or even your health, is temporary. The Stoics believe that by acknowledging the fleeting nature of life, you become more grateful for what you have in the present moment. This awareness of impermanence encourages you to appreciate what's in front of you right now, rather than taking it for granted or waiting for something better to come along. When you recognize that nothing is guaranteed and everything can change, you start to value the present moment with greater intensity. Practicing gratitude also helps you develop resilience. Life is full of challenges, and there will always be moments of difficulty. But when you cultivate a mindset of gratitude, you build the emotional strength to face these challenges without being overwhelmed by them. Gratitude doesn't erase pain or hardship, but it gives you the ability to see beyond them. It reminds you that, even in the darkest moments, there is still something to be thankful for. This shift in perspective can help you navigate difficult times with a sense of hope and resilience, knowing that there is always something worth appreciating. Gratitude also plays a crucial role in reducing anxiety and fear. Often, anxiety stems from a fear of the future, worrying about what might go wrong or what you might lose. But when you practice gratitude, you anchor yourself in the present. You stop focusing on what could happen and start appreciating what is already here. This doesn't mean you ignore potential challenges, but it helps you approach them from a place of abundance rather than fear. Gratitude shifts your focus from a mindset of scarcity, where you worry about losing what you have, to a mindset of abundance, where you appreciate the gifts of the present moment. Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, is also about accepting life as it is. The Stoics taught that much of human suffering comes from resisting reality, wishing that things were different or trying to control outcomes that are beyond our power. But when you practice gratitude, you learn to accept life as it is, with all its imperfections. This acceptance doesn't mean giving up or resigning yourself to a life of mediocrity. Instead, it means recognizing that even the challenges and imperfections of life have value. When you stop resisting what is and start appreciating it, you open yourself up to a deeper sense of peace and contentment. A vital part of practicing Stoic gratitude is reflecting on the things you often take for granted. It's easy to overlook the simple blessings in life, like the roof over your head, the food on your table, or the people who care about you. But Stoicism encourages regular reflection on these small but significant aspects of life. By consciously acknowledging them, you develop a deeper appreciation for the things that are often overlooked. This practice not only shifts your focus from lack to abundance, but also helps you cultivate a sense of contentment that isn't dependent on material success or external validation. Gratitude also fosters humility. When you practice gratitude, you acknowledge that much of what you have is not solely the result of your own efforts, whether it's the kindness of others, the opportunities you've been given, or even the circumstances of your birth. Gratitude reminds you that you are part of a larger system, interconnected with the world around you. This humility helps you appreciate the contributions of others and recognize that you are not entirely self-sufficient. It also encourages you to give back, knowing that just as you have benefited from others, you too have the power to impact the lives of those around you. Stoic gratitude also teaches you to appreciate the process rather than focusing solely on the outcome. In a world that often values results and achievement above all else, it's easy to become fixated on what you haven't accomplished or what you still need to do. But gratitude encourages you to appreciate the journey, to find meaning and value in the effort itself, regardless of the outcome. This shift in focus helps you develop a sense of fulfillment that isn't tied to external success or failure. Instead, you learn to appreciate the growth, learning, and progress that come from simply engaging with life. Another important aspect of gratitude in Stoicism is recognizing the gifts that challenges bring. The Stoics believed that adversity is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced, as it offers valuable lessons and opportunities for growth. When you practice gratitude, you begin to see challenges not as obstacles, but as stepping stones toward greater resilience and understanding. This doesn't mean that challenges aren't difficult or painful, but it does mean that they have value. By appreciating the lessons that come from hardship, you transform your perspective, allowing gratitude to become a powerful tool for personal growth. Finally, gratitude in Stoicism is about taking responsibility for your own happiness. The Stoics believed that happiness is not something that comes from external circumstances, but from within. When you practice gratitude, you take control of your own emotional state. You stop waiting for something outside of yourself to make you happy and start finding joy in the present moment. This shift in mindset empowers you to live a life of fulfillment, regardless of external circumstances. Gratitude becomes a choice, one that you make every day, as you focus on the abundance of life rather than what is lacking. By practicing Stoic gratitude, you learn to see life through a lens of appreciation, finding value in every moment, challenge, and relationship. It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, helping you navigate even the most difficult times with a sense of peace and contentment. Through gratitude, you not only transform your own perspective, but also deepen your connections with the world around you, creating a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Gratitude, as a transformative practice, grounds you in the present and shifts your focus toward appreciation and abundance. But life, rich with purpose and guided by gratitude, is not meant to be lived in isolation. As much as Stoicism teaches the value of self-reliance and inner strength, it also emphasizes the importance of relationships not based on superficial connections, but on virtue and ethical living. True, lasting relationships are built on the foundation of shared values, mutual respect, and living in accordance with ethical principles. Through this lens, Stoicism shows us how to build deeper, more meaningful connections with others by living virtuously. Stoicism teaches that relationships are not about what you can gain from others, but about how you can enrich each other's lives through virtuous actions. A relationship built on virtue transcends transactional interactions, focusing instead on a deeper sense of ethical engagement. When you approach relationships with integrity, kindness, and a commitment to living by Stoic values, you create bonds that are rooted in respect, trust, and mutual growth. These relationships based on shared virtue rather than superficial needs or desires are stronger and more resilient. At the heart of building deeper relationships through virtue is the Stoic concept of justice. Justice, in Stoic terms, is not just about fairness in a legal sense, but about living in harmony with others, respecting their dignity and treating them with fairness and compassion. When you practice justice in your relationships, you prioritize the well-being of others not because of what they can offer you, but because it is the right thing to do. Justice creates a sense of equality and mutual respect, which are essential for building meaningful connections. Relationships grounded in justice are not weighed down by selfishness or manipulation, but thrive on mutual respect and shared ethical principles. Living ethically in relationships also means practicing the Stoic virtue of honesty. Honesty is more than just telling the truth. It's about being authentic and transparent in your interactions with others. When you are honest with the people in your life, you build trust, which is the cornerstone of any meaningful relationship. Stoicism teaches that living dishonestly creates unnecessary tension and mistrust, undermining the very foundation of a strong connection. By being honest even when it's difficult or uncomfortable, you create an environment where both you and others can be vulnerable, knowing that there is mutual respect and openness. Honesty in relationships also involves being truthful with yourself. Stoicism encourages self-reflection, asking you to examine your own intentions and behaviors in relationships. Are you engaging with others for the right reasons, or are you seeking something in return? By being honest with yourself about your motives, you can ensure that your relationships are based on genuine care and virtue rather than personal gain. This self-awareness allows you to approach relationships with a sense of integrity, knowing that your actions align with your values. The Stoic virtue of courage is equally important in building deeper relationships. Courage, in this context, isn't just about facing physical danger, but about having the strength to be vulnerable, to share your true self with others, and to engage in difficult conversations when necessary. Relationships, especially deep and meaningful ones, require a level of openness that can feel risky. But Stoicism teaches that courage is essential for forging these connections. It takes courage to admit when you're wrong, to ask for forgiveness, or to offer it to someone else. It takes courage to stand up for what's right, even when it might lead to conflict or discomfort. But these moments of courage are what deepen relationships, allowing them to grow based on trust, vulnerability, and shared values. Temperance, or self-control, is another vital Stoic virtue in relationships. It's about managing your desires and impulses in a way that respects both yourself and others. Temperance teaches you to avoid acting out of anger, jealousy, or selfishness, all of which can damage relationships. Instead, it encourages you to approach situations with patience and understanding. In moments of conflict, temperance helps you step back, reflect, and respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. This kind of emotional regulation strengthens relationships by reducing unnecessary conflict and fostering a calm, respectful environment where both parties feel heard and valued. Practicing temperance also means respecting boundaries, both yours and others. Healthy relationships are built on a mutual understanding of personal space, emotional needs, and limits. By practicing self-control, you ensure that you don't overstep these boundaries, which builds trust and respect between individuals. Temperance also helps you avoid becoming overly dependent on others for validation or emotional support, allowing for a more balanced and fulfilling relationship. One of the most profound ways to build deeper relationships through virtue is by embodying kindness and compassion. Stoicism teaches that every individual is an interconnected part of a larger whole, and that by acting with kindness, you strengthen those connections. Kindness, rooted in Stoic virtue, is not about expecting something in return. It is about recognizing the shared humanity in each person and acting in ways that uplift and support them. When you practice kindness without attachment to outcomes, you create a space for others to feel valued and understood. This unconditional kindness builds trust and deepens relationships, creating a bond that is based not on what you can gain, but on the mutual desire to support each other's growth. Compassion, in the Stoic sense, is closely linked to the concept of empathy, understanding the emotions and experiences of others without letting them dictate your own emotional state. Stoicism teaches that while you should care deeply for others, you must also maintain your own inner peace. Compassion allows you to connect with others on a deep level, acknowledging their struggles and offering support while also preserving your own emotional stability. This balanced approach to compassion strengthens relationships, as it prevents you from becoming overwhelmed by the emotions of others while still offering genuine care and empathy. Stoicism also emphasizes the importance of acceptance in relationships. People are imperfect, and even in the most virtuous relationships, there will be misunderstandings, disagreements, and challenges. Stoicism teaches that part of living ethically in relationships is accepting the imperfections of others and yourself. This doesn't mean tolerating harmful behavior, but rather understanding that no one is perfect and that growth is a continuous process. Acceptance creates space for forgiveness and understanding, allowing relationships to deepen even in the face of conflict or difficulty. By accepting others as they are without trying to change them to meet your expectations, you foster a relationship built on genuine respect and love. Another critical aspect of connecting through virtue is recognizing the importance of reciprocity. While Stoicism teaches self-reliance and independence, it also acknowledges that healthy relationships involve a balance of giving and receiving. Reciprocity, in Stoic terms, is not about keeping score, expecting something in return for every kind act. Instead, it's about understanding that relationships are a two-way street, where both parties contribute to each other's well-being. When you live by Stoic virtues, you naturally cultivate this sense of reciprocity, ensuring that your relationships are balanced and mutually supportive. Living ethically in relationships also means practicing gratitude toward the people in your life. Just as Stoicism teaches gratitude for the material and experiential aspects of life, it also encourages you to be grateful for the relationships that enrich your life. Gratitude for others not only strengthens your bonds with them, but also deepens your own sense of fulfillment. When you take the time to appreciate the people around you, you cultivate a sense of abundance in your relationships, focusing on the positive aspects rather than the flaws or imperfections. This practice of gratitude fosters a deeper connection by reminding you of the value that each person brings into your life. The Stoic virtue of humility is also key to building deeper relationships. Humility allows you to approach others with openness and a willingness to learn from them. It reminds you that no matter how much you know or how virtuous you strive to be, there is always room for growth and improvement. Humility fosters deeper connections by encouraging you to listen actively and to be open to the perspectives of others, rather than assuming that your way is the only way. In relationships, humility allows for mutual respect and growth, as both parties recognize that they have something to learn from each other. In addition, humility prevents you from allowing ego to damage your relationships. When ego gets in the way, pride, stubbornness, and the need to be right can overshadow the virtues that foster meaningful connections. By practicing humility, you approach relationships with a mindset of collaboration and mutual respect rather than competition or dominance. This humility creates a safe space for open communication and trust, allowing relationships to flourish on a foundation of equality and understanding. Building deeper relationships through virtue also means practicing responsibility. Stoicism teaches that you are responsible for your actions, words, and the energy you bring into your relationships. Living ethically means holding yourself accountable for how you treat others and being aware of the impact you have on their lives. Responsibility in relationships fosters trust and respect, as it shows that you are committed to acting with integrity and making decisions that benefit not only yourself, but also those around you. This sense of responsibility deepens connections, as it demonstrates that you are invested in the well-being of the relationship. The Stoic practice of emotional regulation is also vital in maintaining virtuous relationships. While emotions are a natural part of life, Stoicism teaches that you should not be ruled by them. In relationships, this means practicing self-control and ensuring that your emotions don't lead to harmful words or actions. By managing your emotions, you create a stable, peaceful environment where both parties feel respected and valued. Emotional regulation also prevents small conflicts from escalating into larger issues, allowing for more constructive and compassionate communication. Ultimately, connecting through virtue in relationships is about aligning your actions with your values. When you live according to Stoic principles, practicing justice, honesty, courage, temperance, kindness, and humility, you create relationships that are built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. These virtues act as the foundation for deeper, more meaningful connections that go beyond surface-level interactions. Through virtue, relationships become a space for personal growth, shared purpose, and ethical living, allowing you to connect with others in a way that is both fulfilling and enriching. Having explored the power of connection through virtue, it becomes clear that relationships based on shared ethical principles can offer a deep sense of belonging and meaning. Yet, even with these meaningful connections, there are moments when isolation and loneliness persist. In these moments, Stoicism offers a profound solution: acceptance. The Stoic practice of accepting life as it is rather than how we wish it to be can ease the feelings of isolation and bring a sense of peace. This acceptance is not passive resignation but an active engagement with reality. It involves embracing life's challenges, limitations, and uncertainties, allowing you to find strength and resilience in the face of circumstances beyond your control. Acceptance begins with understanding that much of life is outside your control. The Stoics taught that suffering often arises from resisting reality, wishing that things were different, or fighting against situations that cannot be changed. This resistance creates inner turmoil, amplifying feelings of isolation and frustration. By practicing acceptance, you free yourself from the mental struggle of trying to control the uncontrollable. You learn to release the weight of unrealistic expectations and instead embrace life as it unfolds. This shift in perspective helps you find peace, even in situations that might otherwise cause distress. The Stoic principle of amor fati, the love of fate, further emphasizes this point. It teaches that, instead of merely tolerating what happens, you should embrace it fully, recognizing that every event, whether positive or negative, has value. When you practice amor fati, you stop viewing difficulties as barriers and start seeing them as part of the path. This mindset doesn't mean you have to enjoy hardships, but it allows you to find meaning in them. In terms of isolation, amor fati helps you accept that moments of loneliness are not to be feared or avoided, but embraced as opportunities for growth and self-reflection. This acceptance of what is also extends to your emotions. Stoicism teaches that emotions, while natural, should not control you. Feelings of isolation or sadness are part of the human experience, and denying them only intensifies the discomfort. Instead of pushing these emotions away or pretending they don't exist, Stoicism encourages you to acknowledge them without becoming attached to them. By accepting your feelings without judgment, you create space to observe them and understand their root causes. This acceptance leads to emotional clarity, reducing the power these feelings have over you and easing the sense of isolation that often accompanies them. In this practice of acceptance, the Stoics also emphasize the importance of understanding the nature of impermanence. Everything in life is in a constant state of flux, and this includes your emotions, circumstances, and relationships. When you feel isolated, it's easy to believe that this state will last forever. But Stoicism reminds you that nothing is permanent. Just as joy comes and goes, so do feelings of loneliness. By accepting the impermanence of all things, you reduce the fear of being stuck in isolation. You understand that this moment, like all others, will pass. Stoic acceptance also involves letting go of attachment to outcomes. Much of the anxiety and isolation we feel comes from the desire for things to turn out a certain way, whether it's hoping for a relationship to flourish, a career goal to be achieved, or a personal ambition to be realized. The attachment to specific outcomes can lead to disappointment when things don't go as planned. Stoicism teaches that, while it's important to set goals and take action, the outcome is often beyond your control. By accepting this uncertainty, you free yourself from the constant pressure of trying to force things to happen. This detachment from outcomes allows you to enjoy the process and find contentment in the present, even if the result is different from what you expected. Another aspect of acceptance in Stoicism is learning to embrace your limitations. Many feelings of isolation and inadequacy stem from comparing yourself to others or wishing you were different. You may feel disconnected because you believe you don't measure up to societal standards or the expectations of others. But Stoicism teaches that true fulfillment comes from accepting yourself as you are with all your strengths and weaknesses. When you stop striving to be something you're not and begin to appreciate your unique qualities, you ease the burden of isolation. Acceptance of your own limitations is a form of self-compassion, allowing you to connect more deeply with yourself and others. Accepting the reality of others is equally important. Stoicism teaches that each person is on their own path, with their own challenges, values, and decisions. It's easy to feel isolated when others don't act in the way you expect or when relationships don't unfold as you hoped. But part of Stoic acceptance is recognizing that you cannot control other people's actions or thoughts. By accepting others as they are without trying to change or mold them to fit your expectations, you free yourself from the frustration and disappointment that often leads to isolation. This acceptance allows you to appreciate people for who they truly are, deepening your connections with them without the burden of unmet expectations. The Stoic practice of acceptance also involves cultivating patience. In a world that often values instant results and immediate gratification, it's easy to become frustrated when things take time, whether it's healing from emotional pain, building relationships, or achieving personal growth. Patience, however, is a form of acceptance. It teaches you to trust the process and recognize that everything unfolds in its own time. When you accept that progress, healing, and connection may not happen overnight, you reduce the anxiety that comes from impatience. This patience creates space for growth and connection, easing feelings of isolation by allowing you to trust that everything is evolving as it should. In moments of isolation, it's natural to focus on what's missing, whether it's companionship, understanding, or connection. But Stoic acceptance shifts your focus toward what is present. By accepting the current moment fully, you begin to see that there is always something to appreciate, even in solitude. This doesn't mean denying the desire for connection, but it helps you find peace in the present, knowing that it is enough. Stoicism encourages gratitude for the small things, teaching that each moment, no matter how quiet or lonely, holds its own value. By accepting the present as it is, you reduce the need to constantly seek something else, and in doing so, you ease the feelings of isolation. Stoic acceptance also teaches that part of life's natural order involves facing challenges and setbacks. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, or a period of personal difficulty, these moments can often intensify feelings of isolation. But rather than resisting these experiences or wishing they hadn't happened, Stoicism encourages you to accept them as part of the journey. Life is filled with both joy and pain, and accepting this duality allows you to navigate difficult times with grace. Instead of feeling isolated by your challenges, you begin to see them as part of the shared human experience. This acceptance helps you realize that you are not alone in your struggles. Everyone faces hardship, and by accepting this, you ease the burden of isolation. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoic acceptance is the idea of focusing on your own actions and responses. While you cannot control what happens to you or how others behave, you have complete control over how you respond. Stoicism teaches that by accepting responsibility for your own reactions, you reclaim your power. This acceptance of personal responsibility helps you move through isolation with resilience, knowing that you have the inner strength to face whatever comes your way. Instead of feeling helpless or disconnected, you understand that your actions, thoughts, and attitudes shape your experience of the world. Acceptance also involves releasing the need for approval from others. Much of the isolation we feel comes from the fear of not being accepted or understood by those around us. But Stoicism teaches that true peace comes from within, not from external validation. When you accept yourself fully without needing others to approve or validate your worth, you ease the sense of isolation that often arises from feeling judged or misunderstood. This self-acceptance empowers you to live authentically, knowing that your value is not determined by others, but by your own actions and integrity. Finally, Stoic acceptance helps you embrace the interdependence of all things. While loneliness can make you feel cut off from the world, Stoicism teaches that you are always part of a larger whole. Every individual is connected through the shared experience of being human, and every action you take has an impact on the world around you. By accepting this interdependence, you realize that you are never truly alone. Even in moments of solitude, you are connected to the world through your thoughts, actions, and contributions. This broader perspective helps you move beyond the narrow focus of isolation and see your place within the larger fabric of life. Through the practice of Stoic acceptance, you learn to let go of resistance, embrace the present moment, and find peace in the reality of life as it is. This acceptance seizes feelings of isolation by helping you see that you are part of something greater, that your emotions are natural and transient, and that you have the power to respond to life's challenges with resilience and grace. By accepting what is, rather than wishing for what could be, you open yourself to the possibility of finding connection, meaning, and peace in every moment, no matter how isolating it may initially seem. As we reach the culmination of these 12 Stoic lessons, you now hold a timeless roadmap, one forged by the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, to never feel truly lonely or lost in the depths of despair again. From embracing solitude as a sanctuary of growth to anchoring yourself in the present moment, understanding the transient nature of emotions, cultivating self-reliance, living with purpose, practicing gratitude, connecting through virtue, and embracing acceptance, you've discovered that true strength and fulfillment are not distant prizes to be won, but treasures already within your grasp. These Stoic principles, offered through the lens of Stoic reflections, are not mere theories but practical tools to face life's inevitable challenges with calm, clarity, and resilience. Loneliness and depression, though formidable, need not define you. They are but shadows that pass when illuminated by the light of wisdom. Now, the journey continues with you. We invite you to bring these lessons into your daily life, to test them, refine them, and share their impact. Which of these principles resonated most deeply with your soul? How will you weave them into the fabric of your existence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your reflections inspire us as much as they inspire others. If this exploration has stirred something within you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic Reflections for more content on Stoicism and the art of living a resilient, fulfilled life. Let's keep growing together. And speaking of growth, stick around for a special discussion with our guests, Benjamin and Charlotte, who will dive deeper into these Stoic teachings, sharing their own experiences and insights immediately after this. Their perspectives promise to enrich this exploration further, so don't miss out. See you in the comments and in the next video.
If you're here for this deep dive with us, well, you're probably looking for, some practical wisdom to use in your life.
Yeah.
Especially if you're dealing with things like, loneliness or even depression.
Yeah. And that's really, more common than people realize.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And today we are diving deep into Stoicism.
Yes.
We're going to look for strategies for finding inner peace, even when things are, kind of tough.
Absolutely.
Our source material is Stoic Lessons. Find inner peace, defeat despair.
Yeah.
And it blends, classic Stoic philosophy with advice that you can actually put into practice.
Right.
All inspired by the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius himself.
It is amazing. You know how Stoicism is a philosophy that has been around for over 2,000 years?
I know, it's wild.
But it still resonates so much today.
It really does.
It's Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman emperor.
Yeah.
Dealing with immense pressure.
Of course.
And he found solace, in Stoicism.
Wow.
And these same principles can help us navigate, the complexities of modern life.
I love that.
What's really cool is how Stoicism views solitude.
Okay.
It's not as something to fear. It's actually seen as a source of strength.
Solitude.
Yeah.
That sounds a little counterintuitive.
Right.
Don't we all, crave connection with others?
Right.
I feel like that's kind of human nature.
Absolutely. Connection is very important. But the Stoics, they make a distinction between solitude and loneliness.
Okay.
Loneliness is, that empty feeling of isolation.
Right.
Solitude, on the other hand, that's a deliberate choice to spend time with yourself.
Okay.
It's a chance to disconnect from, the constant noise and demands of the world.
Yeah.
And to reconnect with your inner self.
So if you're struggling with loneliness, you're saying, what if those moments of being alone
Yes.
could actually help you become more self-reliant and find peace?
Exactly.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this. But how can solitude actually help with loneliness?
Yeah.
Especially if it's already kind of a source of struggle.
Think of it this way. When you're comfortable being alone with yourself, you don't need other people to feel happy or fulfilled.
Oh, interesting.
You begin to trust your own judgment, and you get this sense of inner strength that can really help you when you're going through tough times.
Oh, I see.
And even Marcus Aurelius, who was a very busy emperor, he actually made time for solitude.
Right.
He wrote meditations.
In that time.
Yeah, during those periods of quiet reflection. He even believed that these periods made him a better leader.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's not about becoming a hermit, like shutting yourself off from the world.
Right.
It's about kind of reframing those moments when you are alone.
Exactly.
Instead of dreading them, you see them as opportunities for personal growth.
Yes.
Maybe you could journal, explore a new hobby, or just take a walk out in nature.
Yeah, anything that, helps you connect with yourself.
Yeah, connect with yourself, your own wisdom.
And the more you practice solitude, the more self-reliant you become. You realize that you have the power to create your own happiness and peace of mind.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance between connecting with others and nurturing, your own inner world.
Makes a lot of sense. So we've explored how solitude can be a pathway to self-reliance and inner peace. But what about when difficult emotions, they inevitably arise? How can Stoicism help us manage those? Especially when we're dealing with feelings of loneliness or even depression.
Well, Stoicism has some really practical tools for managing emotions. The Stoics, they didn't see emotions as good or bad. They saw them more as signals, like indicators of how we're perceiving the world.
Okay.
And here's the key. They believed that we have the power to choose how we're going to react to those emotions.
Oh, okay.
Imagine yourself as the captain of a ship.
Okay, yeah.
Your emotions are like the waves. You can't always control the waves, but you can control how you steer the ship through them.
I like that analogy.
Good.
But, steering a ship through rough waters, it takes practice.
Yeah.
What are some practical techniques we can use to become better captains of our, emotional ships, so to speak?
One powerful technique is negative visualization.
Negative visualization.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds a little counterintuitive.
I know, it does. But it's about mentally preparing yourself for the possibility of, negative events.
Okay.
And by contemplating those worst case scenarios,
Yeah.
you can actually reduce your anxiety and fear.
Wait, how does thinking about bad things happening actually help?
Right?
Wouldn't that just, make things worse?
Not necessarily. Let's say you're feeling anxious about going to a party or, like a social event.
Yeah.
Because you're worried about feeling lonely or awkward.
Right.
So instead of trying to avoid those feelings, you try visualizing the worst case scenario. So imagine yourself walking into the event, you don't know anyone there, you feel completely out of place. Just sit with that feeling for a minute.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
By confronting those fears head on,
Yeah.
they might start to lose some of their power over us.
Precisely. And here's the really important part.
Okay.
After you visualize that worst case scenario, ask yourself, could I handle it?
Oh, interesting.
What resources or strengths could I draw on to navigate this situation?
That's a good point. By, mentally rehearsing how we'd cope.
Yes.
We build resilience, we build confidence.
Exactly.
That's like having an emotional safety net.
Right.
If the worst does happen.
Yeah.
We've already prepared ourselves to deal with it.
Exactly. And by facing those fears head on, we often realize that they're not as scary as we thought.
That's true.
And even if things don't go perfectly, we know that we can handle whatever life throws our way.
I love that. So negative visualization, it's like mentally preparing ourselves for all the challenges.
Yeah.
It sounds like a form of emotional resilience training.
Right.
But what about those times when we're feeling lost,
Right.
or we lack direction in life?
Yeah,
Can Stoicism help with that?
absolutely.
Finding a sense of purpose?
Yeah.
Especially when loneliness and emptiness are kind of creeping in.
Yeah, it absolutely can. The Stoics believed that everyone has a specific role to play, They called this role our logos.
Logo?
It's our unique contribution to the universe. And it's not about, grand gestures or becoming super famous or anything. It's about living each day with intention and virtue. You might be feeling kind of lost right now, but Stoicism says that, everyone has a purpose.
That is a very hopeful thought.
Yeah.
But how do we uncover that purpose? Where do we even begin? It all feels a little, abstract.
It starts by understanding that our logos, it's not some predetermined path that's laid out for us.
Right.
It's something that we actively cultivate, through our choices and actions. It's about aligning our actions with our values.
Ah, okay, yeah.
What do you really believe in? What matters most to you? What kind of impact, even in small ways, do you want to make on the world?
Okay, I'm with you.
Wow.
So if I value kindness,
Right?
I should look for ways to express that kindness in my everyday life.
Exactly. It could be something super simple, like giving someone a genuine compliment.
Right.
Or, helping someone out, or even just listening to a friend who's having a rough time.
Yeah.
Each act of kindness, no matter how small,
Yeah.
that becomes a way of, living your purpose.
That's a great perspective.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off of having to find one big, grand, singular purpose.
Right.
And lets us focus on just making meaningful choices.
Yeah. Exactly.
Each and every day. It's
Right.
weaving purpose into our everyday lives.
Exactly. And the more we live in alignment with our values, the more we naturally start to feel a sense of direction and meaning, right? We realize that our purpose isn't something we need to go searching for. It's something that we create through our actions.
That's really resonating with me. But what about when life throws us curveballs?
Right.
The things that make it hard to see our purpose.
Yeah.
What if we're dealing with some really, tough challenges that make us question everything?
That's where the Stoic principle of gratitude comes in.
Gratitude.
Yeah. The Stoics, they believe that gratitude wasn't just about feeling good.
Yeah.
It was a powerful tool for navigating tough times. It's about actively choosing to focus on what we have rather than what we lack.
That makes sense. But gratitude can be tough,
Yeah.
when you're in the middle of dealing with loneliness or depression.
Right.
How can we cultivate gratitude when things feel so bleak?
Think about it like this. Gratitude is like a muscle that gets stronger with use. One powerful practice is keeping a gratitude journal. So every day, just try writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. And they don't have to be these big, huge things,
Right.
It could be simple things like having a warm cup of coffee or a beautiful sunset, even a kind word from a stranger.
I like that.
Yeah.
So even during those tough times,
Yeah.
we can still find those little, glimmers of light
Right.
if we intentionally, shift our focus.
Exactly. And here's the amazing thing. The more we practice gratitude,
Yeah.
the more we actually train our brains to see the world in a more positive light.
Really?
And that can have a huge impact on how we experience loneliness.
So by actively practicing gratitude, we're like rewiring our brains
You got it.
to be more resilient, more hopeful.
Exactly.
I like that. But as much as self-reliance and gratitude are important, we are social creatures,
Right.
How does Stoicism approach that need for connection and belonging?
You've touched on a really important point. While Stoicism emphasizes self-reliance, it also recognizes the importance of, relationships.
Okay.
But it encourages a specific type of connection through virtue.
Connecting through virtue. What does that mean, like practically speaking?
It means building relationships that are grounded in those, core Stoic values.
Okay.
Justice, honesty, courage, temperance, kindness, humility.
Yeah.
These virtues, they become the bedrock of our interactions.
I see.
Fostering trust, vulnerability, mutual growth. And, these relationships can be really powerful antidotes to loneliness.
So it's not just about like collecting friends or followers.
Right.
It's intentionally building relationships that are based on shared values.
Yes.
Ethical living.
Exactly. It's about recognizing, the inherent worth of each person and treating them with respect, regardless of, their differences.
Exactly. Think about how honesty plays out in our relationships,
Yeah.
right? Being authentic, it allows us to connect, on a much deeper level. It's about letting people see our true selves, our strengths and, and our weaknesses.
Absolutely.
That can be a little scary though, can't it?
Yeah.
Like being vulnerable opens us up to, potentially getting hurt.
It does, yeah. And that's where
Yes.
courage comes in.
Courage.
Right. It's not just about, physical bravery or anything like that.
Right.
It's about having the courage to be vulnerable, to open yourself up to that possibility of rejection. And it's about being courageous enough to speak up against injustice, even when it's hard.
So even within our relationships,
Yeah,
we can practice courage by speaking our truth and standing up for what we believe in.
absolutely. Now let's talk about temperance. Relationships, they're going to have disagreements. It's inevitable.
Yeah, of course.
But temperance reminds us to manage our emotions,
Yeah.
especially in those, heated moments.
Yeah. So instead of reacting, impulsively with anger or blame, we take a step back, we breathe,
Yes.
and we try to respond in a way that, aligns with our values.
Exactly. It's about pausing before you speak, choosing your words carefully. And it's about respecting boundaries,
Oh, yeah.
both your own and those of, other people.
That's a good point.
Recognizing that everyone has different needs, different limits. It's essential for, creating those healthy relationships.
Absolutely. So all of these virtues, they kind of create this framework
Yeah.
for navigating the ups and downs of relationships.
Yeah.
They're going to happen,
Right.
but we can do it in a more mindful way, in a compassionate way.
Yes.
They're like guideposts for deeper connections.
And those strong connections
Yeah.
built on shared values, they can really help counteract those feelings of isolation and loneliness.
Absolutely. Connecting through virtue. That's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It reminds us that our relationships can really be a source of strength,
Mhm.
and support, especially when we're facing things like loneliness.
Right.
But even with those strong connections, life can still, throw us curveballs.
Yeah, it does.
How does Stoicism help us navigate those, those unexpected twists and turns?
Right.
Those moments where things just don't go according to plan.
Well, that's where the concept of acceptance comes in.
Acceptance.
Yeah. The Stoics, they had this, kind of radical idea
Okay.
that a lot of our suffering, it comes from resisting what is.
Resisting what is.
Yeah, like we fight against reality, wishing things were different. We try to control outcomes that we really have no power over.
Right.
And that resistance, they believed, it just, creates more pain.
It's like trying to swim upstream
Exactly.
against a really strong current.
Yeah.
You just get exhausted. You feel helpless.
Yeah.
You end up further from where you want to be.
Exactly. Stoic acceptance, on the other hand, it's about surrendering to the flow of life.
Surrendering.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that, we can't control everything and choosing to embrace what is.
Even when it's hard.
even when it's difficult.
Right.
It doesn't mean, giving up or resigning yourself to a life of misery or anything.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the present moment.
Yeah.
Without judgment, without resistance.
I can see how that mindset shift could be really helpful.
Yeah.
But how do we actually practice acceptance?
Right.
Especially when we're feeling painful emotions like loneliness or even despair.
Yeah.
Those feelings can be so intense.
They can. The first step is accepting those feelings without judging yourself for having them.
Oh, okay.
Recognize that loneliness, it's a natural human emotion. Everyone experiences it at some point, It doesn't have to define you. It's like saying to yourself, it's okay to feel lonely right now.
Yeah.
It's a valid emotion. I'm not going to, beat myself up over it.
That self-compassion piece is so important.
It is, yeah.
It's like treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to, a friend who's going through something similar.
Exactly. And acceptance, it also helps us let go of the need to try and control other people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We can't make someone love us or want to spend time with us,
Right.
Trying to force those connections, it only leads to more suffering.
I see.
It's about respecting other people's choices,
Right.
allowing them to make their own decisions. And focusing on building relationships with people who genuinely want to be in our lives.
That makes me think about what we discussed earlier about, connecting through virtue.
Yes.
It's about approaching relationships from a place of respect,
Yeah.
recognizing that each person has value,
Right.
even if their choices don't line up perfectly with what we want.
Absolutely. Acceptance also encourages us to embrace the reality of our own limitations.
Mm-hmm.
We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses, right? Pretending to be something we're not, that just creates more isolation.
That's true.
It's about recognizing that we're perfectly imperfect.
I like that.
Our flaws, they're part of what makes us unique and valuable.
So instead of, striving for some unattainable ideal,
Right.
we just accept ourselves as we are.
Yeah.
Flaws and all.
Exactly. And that self-acceptance, it allows us to be more compassionate towards other people.
Yeah.
Recognizing that they're on their own journeys too.
You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
And with acceptance comes the freedom from needing external validation.
Yeah.
We stop looking for approval from other people.
Right.
And we start finding that sense of worthiness from within.
Exactly.
Our value, it doesn't come from how many likes we get on social media.
Yeah.
Or, the compliments we receive.
Right.
It comes from just being who we are.
Exactly.
That's a very liberating thought.
Yeah.
It takes all the pressure off of, needing to perform for others, prove ourselves to others.
Yeah.
And by accepting ourselves fully, we can then show up in our relationships more authentically.
Yes.
We don't have to put on a mask.
Authenticity is key.
Right.
And here's another powerful aspect of acceptance.
Okay.
It helps us find meaning and purpose in our own lives,
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of our relationship status or how many friends we have.
Right.
Stoicism reminds us that we are whole and complete as individuals.
Yeah.
We're capable of finding fulfillment and joy even when we're alone.
Yeah. So this isn't about denying, that desire for connection,
Right.
but recognizing that our happiness, it shouldn't be completely dependent on, having a partner
Right.
or being surrounded by, tons of friends.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating that inner peace
Yes.
that doesn't rely on what's happening around us.
You got it. It's about approaching relationships from a place of wholeness
Wholeness.
rather than neediness. We offer love and support to others freely without expecting anything in return. And that creates space for genuine connection,
Yeah.
mutual growth, shared joy.
So by cultivating inner peace through acceptance,
Yeah.
we actually become more present,
Right.
more available for genuine connection.
Exactly.
That's kind of a beautiful paradox, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Finally, acceptance involves, surrendering to the flow of life,
Okay.
trusting that things are unfolding as they should, even when we don't understand why. Having faith that even in the middle of challenges and uncertainty, there's a greater plan at work.
It's about letting go of the fear
Yeah.
and the anxiety, that can come with loneliness.
Yeah.
and just recognizing that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. We can find peace in the present moment, even if it's not what we expected or, or hoped for.
You've summed it up beautifully.
Thank you.
Stoic acceptance, it isn't about, passive resignation.
Right.
It's an active choice.
Yeah.
To embrace reality with courage and with an open heart.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Stoicism and inner peace, I'm curious, what's resonating with you most, dear listener?
Yeah, what about you?
What Stoic principle are you, excited to explore further?
Right.
Remember, this is really just the beginning of your journey.
The beauty of Stoicism is that it's a lifelong practice. The more you explore these principles, the more they become part of your everyday life. It's about those small, intentional choices that we make each day. Practicing gratitude, connecting through virtue, embracing solitude, facing our fears with courage.
It's true. Stoicism reminds us that we all have the power inside of us to, navigate life's challenges.
Yeah.
Cultivate inner strength.
Absolutely.
Bring a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
Yeah, it is a really empowering message, no matter what difficulties we may face.
Absolutely. And until next time, may you find peace and clarity and connection on your journey.
Yes.